What's up, YouTube? I'm David Warren, and welcome back to this week's video. Today, we're chatting all about my transition from nurse practitioner to CRNA. If you're new here, this channel is all about being a CRNA and being a nurse practitioner. I'm sharing content on both professions, and today I really want to talk about kind of the elephant in the room, the transition from nurse practitioner to CRNA. It is a transition that I did not take lightly, but something that I don't know that I've really shared the full story. And so I really want to share with you from kind of start to finish what that story looked like. And it really all starts way back in nursing school. So I was in nursing school from 2010 to 2012. And during nursing school, I had the opportunity to shadow both professions. Like I had the opportunity to shadow a CRNA and to shadow a nurse practitioner. And at the time, I really enjoyed both professions. Like I was like, this is really cool. Like I could see myself doing really either or both. And at the time, I was like, well, I'm finishing up nursing school. Let me just live a little bit, finish nursing school, go out, work a little bit, and then I can ultimately at some point decide kind of what I want to do or what path I want to take. And so it was kind of in my mind though, like I want to do something more, but I just want to live a little bit and like be a nurse for a little while and then decide what I want to do. And so my first job out of school, like I really fell in love with the emergency department, really in nursing school and even before nursing school. Like I went to nursing school knowing that I wanted to work in the ER. Like that was what I wanted to do. I grew up watching like the ER shows and I'm like, this is where I belong. And so come like graduation from nursing school a few months before, like I'm looking for jobs thinking like, what am I going to do? And so I apply for like several different ER jobs. And unfortunately in the area where I went to school, the ER was not hiring. And that's like where my family was, where I wanted to stay, but the ER wasn't hiring. And I'm like, I literally went to school to be an ER nurse. Like, I don't want to work in the ICU. I don't want to work, on like med surg. Like, I'm not interested in any of that. Like, I just want to work in the ER. And so I applied to a like nurse residency program at Children's Health in Dallas and interviewed and got accepted for the job. And so it was like a 6-month residency program for new nurses. And like I knew from my clinical rotations in school that ER nurses really hate pediatric patients. They don't know how to deal with them. So I was like, well, I want to get good peds experience because to be a good ER nurse, you have to know how to take care of kids. And so I saw it as like a really good learning opportunity. I'll get my little bit of experience in peds and then I'll go like work in the adult ER somewhere. And so after I got the job, I just like kind of absorbed myself in just ER nursing and just enjoyed that. Like I really wasn't thinking I'm going to go back to school to do this or do this. Like I just want to like take it a step at a time and enjoy the process and where I'm at. And so I worked for a couple of years in the ER and then transitioned to like a PRN role at an adult's ER, did that for a little while and then decided like I wanted to go back to school. And in the meantime of being a nurse, I had the opportunity to shadow a nurse practitioner. So there were nurse practitioners working in the pediatric ER and in the adult ER where I was at. And I had an opportunity to shadow both roles really, and really fell in love with that. Like I loved the idea of like going in, taking a history from the patient, doing a physical exam, and then being able to figure out what was going on, order testing or diagnose the patient there and, treat their whatever they were coming in for and deal with that. And I really liked that aspect of it. Like I loved the aspect of being able to go in and take a history, run through like a differential, order some testing, and then, send them on their way or admit them to the hospital. And so I knew like kind of at that point, I want to be a nurse practitioner. Like I really like that aspect of it. And I think looking back now, not unfortunately, but at that time, like I didn't have the opportunity to reshadow a CRNA. Like it was just like I was working in the ER and I shadowed an ER nurse practitioner and I was like, yes, like that's cool. Like that's what I want to do. I was like really glorifying and fascinated by the ER role, both nursing and provider role. And I really and it was like, that's what I want to do. And so I didn't really give CRNA a second thought. Like I knew at the time, all right, I remember shadowing a CRNA. I remember it being like something really interesting, but like right now, this is something I'm really passionate about and something that I want to pursue. And so I was like, well, I'll go to the ER nurse practitioner route. And so I didn't really give at the time CRNA a second thought because also like typically I didn't do a lot of research at the time, and it's not something that I knew well at the time, but I knew just from the limited amount of information that I had at the time that to go to CRNA school, you had to work in the ICU. And Like I remember taking patients to the ICU from the ER, and I was like, I'm literally not interested in working here. Like I don't want to work in the ICU. And so I kind of was like, I didn't necessarily think this at the time, but like looking back now, I'm like, oh, like I didn't want to go work in the ICU, so I can just kind of like write CRNA school off for now. But even then, like it was still something that kind of lingered in the back of my head, like, oh, I remember shadowing a CRNA and really enjoying that. And so it was something that was there, but not something that I was like, I'm dead set on pursuing this right now. I was more dead set on pursuing the nurse practitioner role. And so I did. Like I applied to the University of Alabama. It was an in-person program. I got accepted, went out, completed my master's in 2 years. It was a family and acute care program. And then after I graduated from that program 2 years later, I got my first job in the ER. Like I went to nurse practitioner school knowing I just want to work in emergency medicine. Like I'm not interested in working family medicine or clinic or ICU or any, like I'm just interested in the ER. And so I like got my first ER job kind of by chance. It was somebody, there was another nurse practitioner there that I had previously worked with as a nurse in the ER who like gave me a really good recommendation to the medical director at the time and ended up getting the job. And it was again a residency type program. So like 6 months of didactic and going to like skills labs and learning skills for emergency medicine. It was really good for like new providers in emergency medicine, both PAs and MPs. And so I was like, this is it. Like I've made it. This is like literally what I want to do with my life. And so after finishing the like internship or the residency, whatever you want to call it, we called it a residency. I worked there for a couple years at that position in Dallas, Fort Worth, and got a little burned out, honestly. Like as an ER nurse, I didn't really experience that burnout, but definitely as a nurse practitioner, I was like, gets kind of rough at times. Like I still enjoy it, but it gets a little bit rough. And then after about 3 years in the program, I was like, all right, I want to do something different. Or I say in the program, after 3 years, I'm thinking like CRNA school at this point. This is way, way before then. 3 years in that job, my first job as a nurse practitioner, I was like, all right, like I'm kind of burned out on this. Like some of the things that caused me to feel that way were there were like heavy metric use. This was at an HCA hospital. So I didn't have much familiarity with HCA hospitals really in general until this first job. Like I didn't work there as a nurse. And so for those of you who have worked at HCA hospitals, comment below. I'm interested in your experience as well. Very metric driven. It is a for-profit institution, Healthcare Corporation of America. Really good learning experience. Like I appreciate my time there, but it was heavily metric driven. Like you have to see a patient in so many minutes. You have to discharge them in so many minutes, and it's metric heavy. And I think part of that is kind of what burned me out. It's like I feel like I can't really provide great care because I'm so focused on like we got to do this, get these patients out, get them admitted, get them discharged, and come to find out like that's very prevalent in emergency medicine. This is not just germane to HCA hospitals. This is very much like a thing in emergency medicine. No matter where you go, like it is metric driven. And that's kind of unfortunate, but it's really the reality of the beast. It's metric driven. And I found this out later, but I was thinking now, like at the time that I had my first job, I was like, oh, this is very like this is like just HCA, is not anywhere else. And so I vividly, this is a whole nother video that we're going to go into at some point, but I remember like looking through travel nurse practitioner positions and I was like, that's something that I want to do. Like, that's amazing. I didn't get the chance to be a travel nurse and I want to live as a travel nurse practitioner. That's something that I want to do. And so I remember looking at these positions thinking, oh, like I want to be a travel nurse practitioner. And so kind of fast forward, I'm going to do a whole video on my like travel life and kind of what that looked like. But I remember thinking like, this is like, I want to do travel work. And so I ended up doing that. I ended up doing travel work, did locums for about 4 to 5 years, and mainly up in Alaska, but worked in Iowa, did some in California, like a little bit of all over. And so and I really enjoyed that. Like that was some of the highlights of my professional career, like doing locums work up in remote Alaska, like is amazing. And so like I thought at the time, I was like, I'm not sure that this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Like I had those thoughts kind of recurring, and even before COVID, like those thoughts kind of came in the back of my head. I was like, I'm just not sure that this is like a forever thing for me. Like I'm looking for something different. I don't know what that's going to be, but I spent probably 4 years thinking that, like thinking, all right, I'm going to do something different. I just don't know what it is. Like, to be honest with you, I looked outside of healthcare. Like, I looked at going to get like an engineering degree. I looked at getting an MBA and getting into more of the administration side. I looked at accounting and like CPA work. Like, there were so many different areas that I really looked into, and I was like, oh, like I need to do something different. Like, I want to do ER, but I don't want to do it for the rest of my life. I don't want to travel for the rest of my life. Like, I don't want to be going back and forth to Alaska multiple times a year for like the rest of my life. Like, do I want the option to do that? Sure, but I don't want to rely on that for the rest of my life. And so, come 2020, when COVID hits, I end up taking a full time job in Dallas Fort Worth at one of the PRN jobs I had in the ER. And so that's kind of another story. Like, I had several PRN jobs in Dallas Fort Worth while I did this travel stuff back and forth. And so I would just pick up shifts when I was home. And no surprise here, when COVID hit, all of the jobs dried up except for the travel jobs for nursing, but none of the travel jobs were there for nurse practitioners. And so I took this full-time job thinking like, I don't know what the world's going to end. And so I took the full-time job at another ER, not the HCA place, one of the other PRN jobs I had after I quit the HCA place. And, at that point, that was kind of the breaking point. I'm like, all right, like I'm not doing this the rest of my life. Like, there's not a chance in hell that I'm going through to do this the rest of my life. Like, I'll do it some, but I'm going to do it the rest of my life. And so I remember thinking back, I was like, I remember CRNA school. Like, that was something that I really, really enjoyed in nursing school. And I'm not married. I don't have any kids, and I had a master's degree. All the CRNA programs are doctoral degrees. And so I was like, all right, I need to even see if this is feasible. Like, is it even realistic for somebody like myself to try to go to CRNA school? And so I scoured online, like looking at like, do nurse practitioners go to CRNA school? Is it even possible? And it was interesting because I didn't really find much, which is part of the reason I've like even kind of taken my YouTube channel in this direction. Like, you'll see my older videos are more nurse practitioner focused. A lot of my newer videos are like nurse practitioner to CRNA focused. And this is a video for it right here. Obviously, this is like the one standing video. I've kind of mentioned it throughout my other videos about being an NP, but this is like the video that explains my journey. And I didn't have that. Like, I didn't even know like if it was even possible for a nurse practitioner to go to CRNA school. And so that's kind of what prompted this in general, was like, I want to share my journey. Now that it's over, I'm like, I've got to share this journey because I can't possibly be the only one who's wanted to do this and couldn't find the resources. And so it's kind of side rabbit trail where that came from. But so I remember shadowing CRNAs back in nursing school, and I was like, that's something that I like really enjoyed, something that I really wanted to do. And all of the CRNA programs are transitioning to doctoral programs, which is like, I wanted to get a doctoral degree, either a PhD or a DMP or something like that. And I was like, this is a really good opportunity. And so I reached out to program directors, CRNA program directors at the time, like mid 2020, to inquire and be like, is it even possible for somebody like me to go to CRNA school? And so I just cold emailed, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 program directors. And I got some yeses, like, absolutely, like, you have really good experience, and some no's, like, no, you wouldn't be a competitive applicant, don't apply. And so, kind of going back to the experience portion, obviously most CRNA schools have a hard requirement of ICU experience. And so the Council on Accreditation, who accredits the CRNA schools, says that you have to have critical care experience, 2 years, a minimum of 2 years of critical care experience. I think it's maybe a minimum of 1 year. I can't remember. I had more than 1 year or 2 years of critical care experience. But at the time, most, and even now, like most CRNA programs require ICU experience. They don't consider ER experience. There's just a handful, and I say handful, like probably less than 5, that would consider ER experience. And so I'm like emailing these programs trying to figure out, like, will they consider my experience? Because I have really good critical care experience in the emergency department as a provider and as a nurse. And a lot of the programs, like, said no. And so I found really maybe 2 programs that I was like, these are top contenders, one being Midwestern University in Arizona and the other being National University in California. And no surprise, I ended up at National University. And so it was quite like full circle. I'll do a whole video on this as well. But there were multiple faculty members in my CRNA program who were nurse practitioners and CRNAs at the same time. And I'm like, where were you when I was applying? Like, I needed to talk to you. So it was really cool, like coming full circle, seeing that, yeah, it's absolutely possible to be an NP and to go to CRNA school. I did it. Multiple members of the faculty where I went to school did it as well. It is absolutely possible. And so I ended up applying to Midwestern. I got waitlisted there, and I applied to National and got accepted there. And so that's kind of what the journey, big, broad picture overall looked like. And so I remember thinking, like, going back to the application stage. So 2020, COVID hits. I'm like, I've got to do something different. Like, I remember CRNA school, and I'm like, that's something I want to pursue. I have a master's degree. I want a doctoral degree. I remember loving the CRNA profession when I shadowed, and I was like, that's what I want to do. That's gonna be the next step for me. And so, kind of going back to the application process, like I knew at the time it was going to be quite a challenge because they were going to be like, okay, you've been a nurse practitioner for like 8 years. Like, why are you switching ships, or why are you jumping ship to try to be a CRNA now? And of course, that came up in every interview that I had. Like, hey, we see you've got really good experience as a nurse practitioner for like 8 years. Why do you want to be a CRNA? And I found that honestly kind of the most challenging question to answer at the time during interviews. And so my advice to you would be, if you are considering going from nurse practitioner to CRNA, have a really, really good, good convincing answer on why you want to be a CRNA. And so I remember in one of my interviews, I was sharing that information on like why I wanted to be a CRNA, kind of telling my shadow story and that sort of thing back from nursing school. And they were like, okay, but like, why? Why do you want to be a CRNA? And so I remember that being kind of like a challenging part of the application process, of them like really questioning. And it's good. Like, it's a grueling, looking back, like it was a grueling 3-year program, but like they really want to know why. And so that's kind of my biggest piece of advice if you're looking into this route, is have your why laid out and mapped out way before you apply, because that's going to be the first question they ask if you get an interview. The other kind of things that you have to consider are the prerequisites for CRNA school. Like, you may have to retake some classes. Like, I had taken obviously graduate level science classes in my NP program and did really well in those. And so that showed that I was like capable of doing graduate level work. But you may, if your courses are older than like 10 years or something, you may have to retake some classes like chemistry or biochemistry or organic chemistry or whatever. All of mine were kind of right at the 9-year period. And so I was within that time frame. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, like I have to do it now, because I'm not retaking all of my science classes so I can reapply. And so that was kind of a personal decision for me. But that's overall what the application process and kind of what my journey really looked like from NP to CRNA, kind of what prompted that journey. There's way more I could say about this, but comment below with what questions you have about the journey. I'd be more than happy to do more videos on this, because like I said, when I was applying to CRNA school, I didn't really find anything. Like, there weren't YouTube videos out there of like somebody being a nurse practitioner and transitioning into CRNA. It just didn't happen that I could find. Clearly it did happen, because there were faculty members in my program that were NPs and CRNAs. But yeah, so it is certainly is possible. And that's one reason I'm making this video, is to let you know that it is absolutely possible to be a nurse practitioner first and to go back to CRNA school. I did it. If I can do it, literally anybody can do it. So comment below with your questions. I'd be more than happy to entertain them or to answer them in any way that I can. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time.